I got this clip from 801_XRP. Very good clip. Brooks, who works at Ripple, managing director of APAC. Ripple was set up 10 years ago. He says it much better himself.
That's great. So, Brooks, wanted to come to you because I think to me, it's really interesting because Ripple represents both sort of the deeper definition of sustainability when it comes to use cases and what you've been piloting in terms of energy efficiency, and also in your model in creating those partnership ecosystems across so many of your customers. I'm sure you're advancing sustainable approach in a deeper way. So, curious for your take.
Great, thank you, Anna, and thank you to the GBBC for putting this together and the convening. It's excellent space, and certainly at a time right now at Davos, these sorts of conversations, kind of deep conversations, getting to the heart of the issue are important. So I like this framework of thinking about, the core business and what we're actually going after from a business front, and then how we do it. And that could apply to anyone thinking about sustainability. And so Ripple was set up 10 years ago to be the company to find real-world use cases for the XRP ledger and XRP, the digital asset. Separate company from the ledger and the asset, of course. And we really identified very early on that cross-border payments and moving value across borders was where we wanted to play and go after. And we've been doing that for 10 years. It takes time, and it's taken a lot of effort to build a network now over 70 countries. But the underlying goal hasn't changed from the beginning, and our employees love this, our stakeholders love it, and it's all about moving value in a faster, cheaper, more trustworthy, and now greener way across borders. Using blockchain technology initially, and then also adding on digital assets as the bridge currency more frequently and more recently. And so that is really what's driven our core business at Ripple, RippleNet. But we also really view, and I like the way that all the panelists have talked about it, there is the macro, and then there's kind of the underlier, if you will. Mm-hmm. And the underlier for Ripple is that we did start out with a ledger that was carbon neutral. We did start out with a vision from the founders that in the environments was going to be very important to what we were doing. And we've lived that for the last 10 years of doing things like signing the Crypto Climate Accord, and we'll talk about later in the panel, kind of going after the carbon credit market and getting a creator fund around that. And so I think that to me is this balance that you laid out, is the business model and then how you're doing it together have to be in concert and not be at odds with each other.
Management of FTX says that it has recovered and secured in cold storage over $1.4 billion in digital assets and identified an additional $1.7 billion in digital assets that they say they're in the process of recovering now. The first interim report from the new management paints a picture of a deeply dysfunctional FTX management that scrambled to come up with some corporate policies to convince an auditor that they even had corporate policies, and with such a lack of accountability that 56 entities within the FTX group didn't produce financial statements of any kind at all. Now, in a sign of how chaotic things were, the report cites an internal communication from then CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, who said, "We sometimes find $50 million of assets lying around that we lost track of. Such is life." The report also said thousands of deposit checks were collected from the FTX group's offices due to the failure of personnel to deposit checks in the ordinary course. Instead, deposit checks collected like junk mail. And the report found that the firm lied about how secure its cryptocurrency was and had lax cybersecurity protections as well. And we expect to hear more about all of this at the next bankruptcy hearing that's set for Wednesday in Delaware. Andrew, back over to you.
I think still the biggest problem. I think I should also point out it is really hard to get bank accounts. That's another problem. There are hundreds of legal businesses every day that can't operate or open because they either can't get a bank account or lose their bank accounts. Some change has to happen to that, and that is on the government to fix. These look like private banks making private decisions about what customers they'll do business with, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is it's legal uncertainty and it's legal risk that they're mitigating. And it is on the government to fix the laws so that legal businesses can get banked. And I think if you talk to people in this business, they'll tell you regulatory uncertainty and the inability to get banking connections are the biggest obstacles.
So yeah, payments today work largely like the internet hasn't been invented. There's all these different payment networks. There's SWIFT, there's ACH, there's mobile money things like M-Pesa and Bcash. things like Venmo, and none of them interoperate, right? And so this is kind of the fundamental problem and why it's still slow and expensive to send money cross-border, and there's this burdensome compliance process that still leaves banks exposed to a lot of risk.
About to boom soon. The road in limbo, staring out my window. I got the formula, stack them bags up and simple, and wait until we explode. I'll meet you at the disco. We just getting started like an intro. 589 the numbers, please call out bingo. We the new heroes. Them trash coins you held went to zero. They done fell below. When we held, they called us weirdos. But what they gonna say though when we blow? But we go, so what the hell do we know? Price went beast mode, it's easy like a free throw. We riding these ways up, and you sitting on a beach float. I told you what to look for, it's sad cause you know what we know, but you didn't get the decode. Now my pocket's full like casinos, going long like Marino. To the top, that's where we go. This that rocket fuel reload. Buckle up, and please enjoy the show. I hope you hold it strong, cause we about to